Hi there. For this week's help video, the week 10 video, I wanted to talk a little bit about stem changing verbs. And I know that I already have a lot of resources posted in Blackboard, but I thought it might help to have just a little bit of extra targeted help with how stem changing verb conjugation works. So I'm going to show you two resources that I have in Blackboard in course documents and walk you through how you would fill those out. So first of all, to show you where I found them, I'm going to come over here. So I clicked on course documents in our Blackboard course and then scrolled down, and I have one of the things that I'm going to show you. The second one that I'm going to show you is this verb conjugation charts, and I think that I've used that in one of my videos already. And then this stem changing verb chart, which is an Excel spreadsheet. If you aren't able to open it, let me know and I'll find a different way to get it to you, but you can probably download it to your computer and open it even like with your Google Docs or one of those, or in Microsoft OneDrive or one of those things. So you probably don't have to have Microsoft Office installed on your computer to use it. So here's the way this spreadsheet is laid out. I have the verbs organized by the kind of stem change that they have. So the first set is E to IE, then O to UE, and then E to I stem changes. And then underneath each of those sections, I have AR verbs. So you can see I have several AR verbs, and then I have some ER verbs, and then IR verbs, and then some that have something special about them. And then under O to UE, I have AR, ER, IR, and some special cases. And under E to I only have IR because there are only IR verbs with that change. So that's what I'm doing there. That's how it's organized. So let me show you how I would recommend that you use this chart. First of all, you'll notice that I have some columns are white and some columns are gray. The gray columns are the ones that won't have a stem change. So what I would recommend is that you actually start with that. We know that usually the stem is the part that's going to stay the same when we conjugate verbs, and then the endings change. Here, because it's a stem changing verb, the stem is actually going to change too. So I know that the nosotros and vosotros forms are going to be just the same as the conjugation patterns that I've learned elsewhere. So I'm going to start with those. And then I'm going to go through and I'm doing this on the computer and typing just so that it's easier for you to see and follow along. But I would recommend that you print it out and fill it out by hand because of how helpful it is. Just the act of writing something out by hand can help activate your memory in a different way than typing it does. So I do recommend that. So depending on how overwhelmed you're feeling by the whole idea of stem changing verbs, if you're feeling pretty overwhelmed by it, the next step that I recommend is just go through it, just identify what the stem change is going to be. So it's going to be this E in the stem is going to change from E to IE. So I'm just going to type the stem, the new stem, in each of these. Okay? Oops. And then I'm going to figure out what the endings are going to be based on the patterns that I've already learned. I know that the yo ending for AR verbs is O, the tu ending is as, the le usted ending is a, and then the ellos, ellas, ustedes ending is an. So that's one way that you can do it, is first do your stem changes. Let's look down here at entender, same thing. I know that this second E, it's the last E of the stem that's going to change. So this E is part of the ending. So it's this E right here, the last one of the stem. Oh, sorry, you can't see what I'm highlighting. It's this E right here that's going to change because this E is part of the stem. Okay, so we know that it's going to be, this is going to be our stem. Oops, unless I type it wrong. Okay, and of course I could have done these already because I know that there's no change here, so it's just going to be entendo. Did you catch my error? Entendemos and entendéis. Okay, now I go through and add in the endings. I'm going to show you in a minute another option that you could do. Okay, entiendo, this ER verb, which I keep forgetting apparently, and entienden. Okay. For right now, these that I have noted as reflexive verbs, I would skip. Don't mess with those right now. We will learn the reflexive verbs in the next chapter, and then you can come back and fill these in your chart. But for now, I would just leave those blank completely. Let's move down here to, I don't want to lose my columns at the top. Let's move down here to almorzar. So I'm going to show you the other option that you have. Instead, if you're still feeling overwhelmed and having a hard time figuring out the patterns, you can go through and add the endings first. O, as, a, amos, ais, oops, ais, an. And then, of course, these aren't going to change, so it's just going to be almorzamos and almorzáis. So this I would recommend mostly if you're still really struggling with just the basic conjugations of regular verbs, that you might find it easier to start with the endings. I think usually in most cases it's going to be easier to start with the stem and add in those stem changes first. But another option would be to just make a note to yourself of what the endings are going to be somewhere else and then add those in later. But the biggest thing to remember is don't throw out what you know about stem change, or about conjugations and about the endings for verbs, because those are going to stay the same. So now we add in our stem change. The O is going to change to UE. So we have almuerzo, almuerzas, oops, almuerza, almorzamos, almorzáis, and almuerzan. Okay, so again, keep the patterns that you've already learned, those o, as, a, amos, ais, an endings, or o, es, e, emos, eis, en. Keep those endings in your mind because those still apply. Okay, don't throw that out. And just remember that all you're doing is adding in a change to the stem. This is not an exhaustive list that I have here. If you would like, if you do download this spreadsheet, you can add columns or add rows and add in additional verbs that you're learning or that are in the textbook. So there are ways that you can alter this sheet to be more useful for you. And then really quickly before I close this, I just wanted to remind you, of course, we also have these charts that I've shown you before that you could fill out, and it's going to be the nosotros and vosotros that don't change. You'll hear these sometimes referred to as boot verbs because if you were to draw a circle around the things that do change, it kind of looks like a boot when you have it drawn in a chart like this. So if you're a visual learner, that might help to conjugate them like this and kind of draw the boot shape, or color in with a colored pencil, color in the boot shape, to remind yourself that these are the conjugations that will have a stem change, and these are the two that will not. So don't forget about those printable verb charts that you can use as well. And again, try handwriting them and see if that helps activate your memory a little bit differently. And then I think that was all that I was going to go over today. Remember that spring break is next week. No assignments are due over spring break, but I have opened week 11, so if you'd like to, you can get started on that whenever you want. And I am still available, not as readily, but I am still available by email throughout spring break. So if you're working on it and you have some questions, shoot me an email. I'm hoping to have all late work and current work graded fairly early in the week next week. So if you do decide to move forward, you'll know exactly where you stand, and you can start getting a head start on the rest of the semester. Anyway, I hope that's helpful, and I will see you online.